What up, what up, what up, what up, what up? Hello, everybody. How are you? This is the crew. We're going to rap to you the whole episode. What do you know? Welcome to this week's episode of the Overflow Podcast. As always, I am Joaquin and
I am Jae.
I decided to put a little extra Latin spice, a little Spanish spice on my name. You know, Joaquin a loogie. But hey, we are back. We were not here Were we here last week? We were here last week.
Yes, we were.
Yes, we were. We were not the week before. I'm so confused right now. As you guys know, I've been. I think I mentioned it before. I've been working like an altered schedule, and so it has me confuzzled.
No, that's called aging. Aging has you confused.
What? No, I am. You're the one that's about to be fitty. Okay. You're about to be fitty and you're worth 25.
That's 5 more than I thought I was worth. Yo, you want to hear something funny?
What? What's up?
Happened today. I can't believe I didn't tell you while we were prepping for the episode. But the family, we were all out at Target getting some stuff, right? Because it's Sonia's birthday tomorrow.
Oh, and, she turns what?
4?
6.
So she's like,
crap.
She's saying today's my last day as a toddler. Tomorrow's my birthday. Like, I was like, yeah, big girl tomorrow. All right. Yeah, but anyway,
you're gonna be going getting a job next day after.
Check it. This is funny. Oh, she's gonna get so mad that I said this on the podcast. But you know, it's not the first time that she gets mad because I say something on the podcast. But as Magda was bringing stuff to the car, so the kids and I stayed in the car, right? And what did I do? Oh, I was playing mainstream artists that sing. Oh wait. Okay, I was playing mainstream songs, right? That were like hidden Christian songs, right? Like more than words from 3 Extreme, right? So I was like playing them for Seba, and showing him the video. I show him the videos, and it's just funny, right? Because then it's Spotify, so right, it was that, and then a couple YouTube songs, right, and then and Seba's like, oh, these are cool. Like, oh, these are cool. Oh yeah, look, I heard it, Papi, I heard it. And then Bon Jovi, You Give Love a Bad Name comes on. And guess what song stuck with your nephew?
Shot through the heart, and you're to blame if you give love a bad name.
It's asleep singing it. I'm like, no. What about the other songs? You don't like the other songs? Like,
no.
You remember one of the U2 songs, Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For? You remember that one from the movie Sing 2. I don't know if you saw that one.
I did see Sing 2. Of course I did.
Bono was the main character, the lion, right? And that was the song. I was like, oh, this is from Sing 2. I was like, yeah, right? You recognize it. And then, you know, it's Bon Jovi. I'm not going to be like, oh, no, take that off. I'm like, oh, yeah, this song is dope. That's the song that stuck with it for the whole But that's not what's funny. What was funny is that Micah's coming back to the car, right? She opens the trunk, the Pilot. We're in the Pilot. She opens the trunk, and I see that this guy walks over to her, right? So I'm thinking, I'm looking in the rear view, whatever, because I'm thinking that it's somebody's asking for money, right? You know, getting a dollar, whatever. So, but you know, still seatbelt off, hand on the door just in case I got to go out there. Yo. It's a white boy trying to pick up my wife.
Good for him. He shot his shot.
He shot got a shot. He asked her for her number, yo. And she was like, she was thrown off. She was stifling a laugh because she was like, yo, this little kid probably wants to date me so I can drive him around. He didn't look old enough to have a license.
Oh, Magda's a cougar.
Or wanted me to take him to dinner so that I can buy his drinks for him. Right? But she was like, no, like my husband's in the car. I was like, oh. And then he like jumped in his car and like sped off. I was like, oh, okay, where you go, baby. If you ever have any doubts, you still got it.
There you go. There you go. You should have been like, and you should have invited him to group on Friday or Saturday.
You should invite us to the next worship night.
You should be like, here's my number. Why don't you come to the worship night? You know. And then...
What is it? Somebody told me that the Baptist, or this guy, no, not the Baptist, but this guy who grew up Methodist. He said that his youth pastor used to say, hey, sometimes you got to flirt to convert. What the hell? No, that's called grooming.
But yeah, that's something. Yo, that's hilarious. I'm telling my wife.
Yo, you have to. So that when we're in Georgia, we can bring it up. And Jenny could join in. Oh, hilarious.
Wait. See if we. Oh, I'll find a way to bring it up.
I'll just bring it up. Hey, baby, did you tell Jenny that you almost picked up a 17-year-old?
Yeah, I'll be like, hola, Cougariski. Oh my goodness, that's awesome. That's awesome. That's so funny.
But yeah, that happened tonight.
So the fact that Bean remembered the song actually is very apropos. Shot through the heart. You're to blame. You give love a bad name. Little kid, man, he's gonna be like, she gives love a bad name. I was in love with that older lady. Yeah, that was up. Oh, quesito.
Quesito, papá. Quesito.
That's okay. I got a place that I don't go to where I can buy them here because I don't need them in my life.
We came back over the weekend. He drove back with his mom, his cousin, and his best friend. They all decided to drive back with him and spend a few days here. They went to the beach, pool,
right.
Whatever, right? But they're up in Boston. I think it's still snowing up there.
Yeah.
But his grandma lives in Orlando. Right? Grandma lives in Orlando, Kissimmee, one of those. I think Kissimmee. So I told his mom, hey, since you decided to go to Kissimmee first, don't bring your son back to the house without stopping by the bakery first.
Right. Right? Because they're all over the place.
No, but I know.
A specific one?
Melau. I know it's closer to her mother's house.
Okay. What's it called?
Melau.
Yo.
Melau.
I think when Jenny was in when Jenny a couple weekends ago took Mia to Universal.
Yeah.
Mom was like, "Oh, you're out there. You need to go." Yeah. Yo, oye, my mom says this to Jenny. Oye, en Kissimmee hay una panadería puertorriqueña, se llama Melau.
Puerto Rican's
Yo. Yo.
Where the spots are.
Yo, yeah. And that was on April 8th. That was just, that's hilarious. That's hilarious.
10 minutes from his grandmother's house.
You should take a picture.
He came back with a box.
You should take a picture of the quesitos and send it to my mom and be like, "Oh, look, we got from Melau Melau." She'll be like, "Ah."
That's the last one.
Oh, then when you poop, take a picture, say, "This was from Melau Melau."
This was a quesito from Melau Melau. That was a quesito.
No, it's a broncito.
Now it's a mojoncito, but it's still from Melau.
No, es un mojoncito cagao cagao. Oh my goodness, that's so
Anyway,
messed up.
we have a
But-
show for you today.
But we got.
All right, we're not gonna keep talking crap. We're gonna we got a few things we want to share. We're gonna talk about the new thing that WB is saying about James Gunn, right?
Since you guys
I'm
know
gonna give you
that-
some opinions. I'm gonna give you our opinions on that. We're gonna talk about the new mandate set out in Texas
in Texas.
and what we feel about that, and then we are going to talk about the death of a general, right? A father in the faith. So we're gonna start out with the James Gunn thing because I think, Joaquin, if I'm not mistaken, we talked about this before, and I mentioned it, right? I mentioned it, but I just love how WB seems to be. It's like that Spider-Man meme where the three Spider-Men are like pointing at each other,
Right.
right? Between WB,
Right.
Zaslav, and James Gunn, they're just like pointing the blame at each other, right? So it came out. When was it? Today?
It was this week, or maybe over the weekend. It might have come out. So what's funny is that, and even before that, Berlanti, right, who put together the Arrowverse, right? He was ticked because he's like, oh, it's like everything we did was for nothing, right? Because they're just rebooting the whole thing, and so right. No, so in context, when Gunn had been announced as the guy that was running the new DC studios, and Saffron, right? Saffron.
Yes. What's funny, you keep saying that, right? Whenever it comes to anything DCU, Saffron is never mentioned. It's Gunn. Oh yeah,
right.
What's the other thing?
Yeah, well, it's because he's
right.
Right.
He stayed in the background.
Right. All he's got to do is put the money together. That's his job. No, what's funny is that when there was first announcement, we had talked about, when it was like, look, they're gonna reboot it, they're not keeping Cavill, and everybody was up in arms until it came out that Henry Cavill did that cameo, but he wasn't even under contract, right?
That was something that they shot last minute.
Right. Purely. Yeah, that was purely The Rock, right? That was purely The Rock that pushed that. And, because The Rock was trying to kind of exert his will over the DCEU and make Black Adam the center of the DCEU, right? That was what he was trying to do.
Let's be real. Like, he wanted $7 Production to be the home of all things DCEU at Warner Brothers.
Right, but he was trying to do it with Black Adam as the kind of the heart and soul of it, instead of the Trinity. You can't do it without the Trinity.
You don't make the villain the main guy.
Yeah, you can't do it without starting off with honestly, right, one of the big three, right? You got to start with the big three. So you start with Superman or you start with Batman, and then you go from there.
You can't do anything without the DC Trinity.
So
you can't do anything DC without the DC Trinity.
Right. So now, right. So then the whole point was that we were talking about, for those of you that might remember, or care, we were talking about, well, now we know that throws a whole kink on Shazam, on Aquaman, on Blue Beetle, right? Because it was like, because they're all kind of connected to the main Snyderverse, right? To the DCEU. So now it's coming out because Shazam tanked at the box office. So now they're trying to blame Gunn, saying, well, it's because Gunn announced that because Gunn did what they brought him to do, right?
Brought him in. Yeah.
They told him, we're gonna bring you in because we want you to reboot this whole thing and start over because we want to catch up to Marvel. And so Gunn said, all right, so let's just. I mean, Gunn, he only had two options, right? Somehow try to rework what's already been put there, but you lost Batman because Ben Affleck wasn't interested in doing Batman anymore, really. And so you had Henry Cavill, who, and we were talking earlier, rumors are that he did, that he was kind of being a little demanding about the role and stuff. So there may be some issues there. Plus, he wasn't even on contract.
Right.
So Gunn did. Reality is Gunn did the smart thing. He says, you know what? Ground zero.
Yeah, but remember, because even before Gunn was officially named, Zaslav said that he had a 10-year plan.
He wanted a 10-year plan. He wanted a 10-year plan. He didn't have one. That's why he brought Gunn in, but he had a 10-year plan.
10-year plan. So, I mean, it makes sense. You can't have a 50-year-old Batman and Affleck and a 30-year-old Superman.
A 50-year-old Superman. Because Cavill's 39.
No, I'm saying now.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Well, years, right? So then keep making them and bring them, unless you do like back to back and then release them whenever. But like Lord of the Rings, right? But you can't,
unless you continue their stories and then you cap it off with the Kingdom Come. That's how you cap it off because you got them in their 50s.
Yeah. Let's not get into the fantasy, right? So in the beginning, at first, they were blaming The Rock for the reason why Shazam tanked in the box office, right? And I kept saying like that doesn't make sense. Even if The Rock didn't want Levi to be in Black Adam, and he didn't want to be in Shazam, it doesn't make sense to me. This is to me. It didn't make sense that they would blame Levi. Like even Levi got on IG Live and started telling people to go see Shazam and not go see John Wick 4, right? And also blaming The Rock. And I was like, yo, somebody take his account away. Right? Like, it didn't make sense to blame The Rock for Shazam tanking. I said I would blame the announcement, right? Gunn's announcement, because Gunn announced the beginning, Creature Commando, Superman Legacy, the Tales of Themyscira, whatever it is, right? All these things. He never mentioned Shazam. He never mentioned Aquaman, and he never mentioned Blue Beetle, right? You and I, we talked about this. Like he didn't mention anything that was current. And then on top of that, let's be real. The Snyder fans are rabid animals.
Yes.
Right? They are rabid animals. They forget their place. They forget that they're fans and not owners. Right? So they were crazy. They were crazy.
Right. They couldn't be happy with the fact that they got the Justice League movie that Snyder wanted to make to at least cap off his movies. Right. Even
if you're they were Snyder fans. So they just wanted Snyder to do everything. They weren't DC fans, right? Like, was I sad that the Snyderverse was done? Yes. But like you just said, at least we got the 4-hour Justice League epic, right? We got that. That was good for me. And then thinking of the 10-year plan, it makes sense. I mean, sadly, but it makes sense that they would reboot it because 10 years is a long time, especially in the life of an actor, right? You age,
right?
Get old.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, you're not making 10. Yeah, you're not. Yeah, you're not making. Yeah, you're not filming 10 years worth of movies back, at once.
Right. Now, if they, like you were saying before, if the new Superman kid that gets cast has a resemblance to Cavill, then that would be amazing. Get Cavill out, right, and let him age normally, and then have everything lead in the Kingdom Come and bring him back as Kingdom Come Superman. and Affleck back as Kingdom Come Batman, Gal back, like bringing the old guard back, but age them up and do Kingdom Come. Oh my goodness! Oh,
Yeah,
that would I would die a happy man.
or you know what? I'll be okay with since they're gonna. See, this would be the pitch, man. Listen, do an Elseworlds. I mean, Kingdom Come was an Elseworlds story anyway, so just do an Elseworlds and just throw gobs of money at those three to go. Look, we're gonna do this one shot Elseworlds. Then you could do an Elseworlds with the DCEU Shazam, the DCEU Batman, right? Batfleck, Levi, all right, and you just kind of give them one big epic. Oh, that would be.
Shazam had a big role in Kingdom Come as well.
He did, yeah. So that would be.
But did you see all the things that are being said about Shazam that I agree 100% with? I haven't seen the last.
I haven't seen. I'm waiting for it to come out on Max, so I can watch it.
This is something. This was a criticism that I had in the first movie. That I think that Zach Levi played him as a goofball. I was a little goofy with it. I understand that he was supposed to be a kid in a grown-up body, like he's an adult as Shazam, but he's still the kid. But there was a disconnect between how the kid played his Billy Batson and how Shazam played Billy Batson as Shazam.
Gotcha.
Right? Like the kid, he was an angsty teenager going through the rejection and the being alone and whatever. And then he became Shazam and he was a goofball. Right? And then apparently in the newest one, he amped up the goofballness, if that's a word.
Oh, okay.
Like there was a scene, like somebody, I'll have to find it and send it to you. Somebody was complaining. One of the critics, not even a critic, a fan was complaining. It's like, there's a scene where Billy Batson was crying because his friends and his family, like the loss of his family, I'm talking about his adopted family, right? And then he turns to Shazam, and Levi has like this goofball smile on his face, and he starts making jokes, like in the same scene. So he's crying because of his family. Says Shazam, becomes Shazam, and he's like, "Hey, look at me!" It's like,
yeah.
Yes. I understand, the kid stuff, but like he wasn't an 8-year-old, right? He's not like Seva, who all he wants to do is play and run around and joke around, right? So
Right. They played it. He played it like Big, like the movie Big.
Right. But even in Big, Tom Hanks, he was a kid and he had some serious things.
But yeah, so Gunn's getting blamed. I think it's ridiculous. Now, listen,
WB, right? Like, yo, it's WB. Like, stop it. WB, stop it. Stop casting the blame on everybody else but yourself. Okay? Because even if you hired Gunn and Gunn did this, Gunn did it after you signed off on it.
Right.
Like, stop. Oh no, it wasn't us. It was Dwayne Johnson. Oh no, wait, was it? Okay, it was James Gunn, right? No, it was you. You had to sign off.
Yeah, you had. Well, they had bad leadership, and now it's getting a little bit righted. So we'll see. I feel though that my only concern is that it feels like Gunn is got too much stuff. He's throwing out way too much stuff, right?
What do you mean?
Like just too much. Creature Commandos, Booster Gold, Green Lanterns, right? Static Shock. He's interested in possibly bringing Static Shock in. It's like, and the Icon characters, right? And so it's like, it's almost too much. It's almost like, okay, so part 1 is going to take 10 years. Part 1 is going to take 10 years.
Shut up and stop saying stuff. I think right now he should focus on Guardians of the Galaxy Part 3, right? Focus on that, promote that, push that, right? That's about to open. Promote Guardians of the Galaxy and stay. I think he said that they're about to start with the pre-production stuff on Superman.
Yeah.
Right. They still haven't cast anyone yet. Like, but finish your current project, which is Guardians, right?
Right.
And then if Creature Commandos is animated, because that's the thing, like he's the studio head. So be a studio head, right? And what's the word that I'm looking for? Old age. And delegate.
Yeah. Bring in.
Mandos is animated. Whoever's doing that, delegate that, and then shut up. And then right, say, all right, we got the animations, whatever. Right? Shut up. And then like he wrote and he's directing Superman himself. Okay, all right, fine. Expected that. Even though I didn't think about it. You're lying. You're lying. Expected that, right? It makes the most sense.
Now he needs to bring the Russo brothers in to do Batman in the Bold, since they're interested.
They want to do it, right? They want to do it.
That's what I'm saying. Since they said they would do it.
Of all the Marvel movies, like their movies are the ones that I like the best.
Well, they did the Avengers, they did the 2 Avengers, Endgames, Infinity War, Endgames, and they did Captain America, Winter Soldier.
Right, which is top 5 for me.
Yeah, easy, right? I'd say top 3, but yeah. So I don't know. I'm excited. I just hope, I worry about all the kind of off-branded characters that he's bringing in, the Authority, and they're just groups that people don't really know much about. I think if you would have just kept it simple, right? Like I get, do the Superman movie. Like do the first 7 projects should have been the original, like the first 7 Justice League members, right? So you do Superman. They do the Green Lantern show. That's a great concept for the Green Lantern.
I like the concept though with the Green Lanterns and the Themyscira show. Right? I like the concept of those things, the ideas behind those things, right? But yeah, I agree with you. Like, shut up about Booster Gold, right? Shut up about Static Shock and other milestone characters, right? Because this is the thing. If they weren't a part of the original announcement that he made, like the big old announcement of the plan and all this, then shut up.
So I don't know much. I don't know much about
They'll keep throwing random things at us when.
Well, it's because a lot of it is fan service, right? Because the fans want a Static Shock. Because the fans, my thing is this, and we'll end it with here is I don't know much about like the Icon stuff, like that.
Icon is a character in Milestone.
I don't know much about the Milestone characters. I know Icon is one. I know Static Shock. That's all I know. So, but I do know that was a real popular comic back in the 90s, right?
It was. I used to collect them. I tried to get a job with them.
You want to blow people's minds? Here's what you do. Create that universe and make it its own universe. Make it its own thing, right? Because now you have
Icon was in the Justice League.
That's okay, that's fine. But he wasn't until he was. Right? So before he was, make it its own, like its own universe. Because one of the things that a lot of these wokesters keep talking about is representation. So now you have this imprint, right? That was full of black superheroes.
Black and
right?
brown.
Black and brown. So same thing. Same. Right. So make that its own world, right? And then
its own corner, right? Like its own
right.
niche, its own corner, and then
And then
I think
you
I
throw
think
the
this on.
was that?
I think it should exist on Max.
Yeah, well, whatever. But you create this whole world where it's based off of this very popular imprint that was black superheroes and all this stuff. And then you know what? In 10 years, just have the Flash punch the wall, right? Because he does the Flash, it runs a little too fast and he punches the wall, and then you merge the universes.
You didn't even have to do all that.
Now I just like to see the Flash screw things up. That'd be a great way to reboot every year.
Bring it into Max, right? Bring it into Max, and then have that connectedness and on the Max shows, right? Have that connected, have in the Lanterns show, right? Where one of the episodes they bring in Static because they go to his neighborhood because one of the old evils or something about the old evil that they're looking for, right, has like some kind of remnant thing in his neighborhood, right? I guess there's a way that you can do it where you keep the connectedness, but it's not bogging down the plan, right? It's not bogging down, right? Because I think that's what happened with the CW, that they just kept introducing, and then it all got muddled up. Right?
Yeah.
Because
the crossover episodes were great, but yeah, it should have just been. But whatever, that is what it is. But we'll see. But since we're talking about movies, we'll just go ahead and mention this. So we ran across. I didn't know about this movie until I saw Ruslan, who talked about it on his YouTube channel. A movie called Nefarious, which is based off of a book that came out in 2016. Which
was it a book? A book?
Yeah, it was. It's a book called Nefarious. And, let me see. Let me find it here. But yeah, it was a book. It came out. I think it was in 20. A Nefarious Plot, a novel that came out in 2016. But the novel had some inspiration apparently from the Screw Tape Letters, which was written by C.S. Lewis. So it's like
if you haven't read the Screw Tape Letters, you should.
So there's what was I gonna say? So this movie is like a horror thriller, where it's about a guy on death row who says he's possessed by demons, and the demons tell the protagonist that he's gonna end up committing 3 murders of his own. Here's the plot. On the day of his scheduled execution, a convicted serial killer gets a psychiatric evaluation during which he claims he is a demon, and further claims that before their time is over, the psychiatrist will commit 3 murders of his own.
I didn't know that's what it was.
Yeah, so that's the plot. The trailer looks pretty good. It's by it doesn't say here.
Who did Unplanned? The writer of God's Not Dead, and the director of also God's Not Dead and Unplanned. So they're both put them together. Writer producers for a lot of Christian movies, actually.
So and it's being distributed by Soli Deo Gloria Releasing. Believe Entertainment is the production company.
So I heard of it because going through YouTube videos, I did see the Ruslan thing, but then I saw a thumbnail of Pass Out in New York, Mike Signorelli, where he said, there were services while they were filming the horror movie, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's clickbait right there, and they got me. I just let me see what this is, right? So then that's how I learned about it, and I didn't know there was a book inspired by Screw Tape. I thought the movie was like a retelling, like a modern retelling of school
Gotcha.
tale letters. Um, but it looks interesting. Now it's funny to me how after you mentioned Ruslan, I watched the Ruslan episode, um, and it was interesting to me how they like a lot of people didn't know that there was such a thing or a genre, I guess, as Christian horror, right? And I'm like, dude, look up Ted Decker. He's been doing it for years,
Frank Peretti,
right?
the
No, but
OG.
I'm talking about movies. Like, remember Ted Decker had that movie 3 based on
Yeah.
his book, right? And that movie got me in trouble in New York.
Yeah. You
Right?
know what? I used to own it. I wonder if I still have it.
That movie got me in trouble. I showed it to my youth group in New York, and I got in trouble. Like, how dare you bring that movie here? Is that even a Christian movie? Should we even be watching this? I'm like, yeah, it's a Christian movie. You gotta watch it. Like, I know it's scaring you, but I mean, we're Pentecostals. We see this every week.
Yeah, we see horror everywhere. Yo, that movie came out in 2006.
Yeah. Right. So, and Ted Decker, like, if he's not the master of writing like Christian thrillers and horror and suspense, then I don't know who is.
Well, there was 3. There was was it The Visitor?
The Visitor was Peretti, because I own that one still. And The Prophet, another Peretti novel.
Yeah. The Visitation was the name of the book.
That was a movie too, right? They made that into a movie with the
I
kid from
want
Terminator.
Yes.
Yeah, they did. I used to own that.
Yeah, it came out in 2006. Yeah, I see. Oh, that's hilarious. That movie that was a pretty well done movie too, if I remember right.
Yeah,
I wonder if I own that one. I might own that one too. I'm about to look through my movies.
I think I own that one too.
So yeah,
but the movie looks
listen.
good. I saw the trailer. It looks good.
Yeah, so according to Wikipedia, Nefarious opened on April 14th in 933 locations and placed 10th in its opening weekend, grossing $1,962,638, 5th behind fellow new releases The Pope's Exorcist, Renfield, Suzume, and Mafia Mama.
Never heard of those last 2, but I think I might go see this in the theaters.
So
now, it looks like, see, like, I'm gonna say this, and I don't care, but you have to agree, even though I know you like them more than I do, but the quality of Christian movies now is so much better than when we were growing up.
Yes, that's what I've been saying. Not all of them are great quality, but it's overall it's gotten better. It can only get better.
I'll say that Courageous was the start, right? But even then, after Courageous, there was some flip-flops, right? In and out. Some were good, some were still like back in the day. But now that people are being brave with different genres and different styles and types of Christian movies, right? Like I'm here for it.
Right. Well, Courageous. I think the first one, the one before Courageous, the football one.
But that one didn't come out in the theaters.
I think it did. I thought they played in the theaters.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
But
right.
Yeah, so I think that's really then Courageous was good. I think the others, it wasn't the problem with the other ones wasn't so much quality. It was just the acting wasn't necessarily up to par across the board. And that was but you say that
like Fireproof?
Well, that was like the very, very that was the second one they made. So Fireproof was the second one they made. So
I know Fireproof had Kirk Cameron.
At Kirk Cameron.
The actor should have been better.
He was a TV actor. No, It was, but then once again though, right? It was a TV actor. And number two, but you can't put it on Cameron because it was a whole cast.
The whole cast. That's true.
Right. So it's not that Cameron should have, because he was there, it should have been. I mean, we've seen garbage movies that were Hollywood $1 million budgets, and you're just kind of like, well, this is the best you can come up with. So yeah, exactly. So I think the problem is that but Fireproof I like the story of Fireproof was good. It was just the acting wasn't up to par, right? Because even production wise, it wasn't bad. I mean, it was just with anything.
To see that movie.
Was that?
It took me
3 times.
Movie.
No, the movie was fine. It was guys that are learning how to make films, and I think I'll say it, and I always say it, I think we expect people that are trying to do something new. We expect them to, do it like Spielberg,
No. Something decent. Didn't Fireproof come out after Courageous?
No, Fireproof was their first big hit after, because they made Flywheel, and then it was Fireproof.
Okay, I thought Fireproof came after Courageous.
No, Fireproof.
Courageous still holds.
Yes. So Fireproof came out in 2008, and then Courageous came out in 2011.
All right. Okay. Cool.
2011. Yeah. So that was the issue. The issue is just that 2008. I think Fireproof was the first one that group. Remember this came out of a church, like in Columbus, Georgia. So
Georgia.
They took a risk and they did pretty well. They're the ones that showed. They're the ones really that showed that movies made by Christians for Christians could make money for Sony and all these other companies to go, hey, this is an completely untapped, forgotten market.
Yeah, untapped market for sure. Yeah, so the trailer to Nefarious, I mean,
check it out.
It looks good, right? It looks like it's well done. So I will definitely go check it out in the theaters, right? It's not because I'm a fan of the horror, of the movies, of the art, of the actors, the direct, whatever. It's not because of that, but I'm a fan of Christians in the creative spaces where normally Christians are not allowed to do things, to actually do things that stand up, right? I'll support that. I'll support that, right? Even if I don't like it, because I'm the guy that if I pay for it, I'm gonna sit through it, even if I don't like it.
Yeah. What was that movie we went and saw? Based on the Max Payne.
Oh, remember that? Oh, it's so horrible. Such a horrible movie. We saw the whole thing.
Yeah, I don't listen. I don't walk out of movies. I paid $30 for my popcorn and my soda and the movie ticket, and we stayed and we watching this.
We watched the thing, like in physical pain. But we watched the whole thing.
I will suffer the whole thing. No, but yeah, so it's good. No, so I read somewhere else. It's not really horror, but more like thriller, not like necessarily horror, like with the jump scares and that kind of stuff. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll check it out.
Well, we'll do that. But all right, so
Texas.
So I try not to get too hung up on here.
Do now.
So Texas, here's what they did. Public schools will have to display 10 commandments under a bill passed by the Texas Senate. The Senate also passed a bill that would set prayer and Bible reading times during the school day. that one kind of went under the radar because I didn't hear. Now I'm in the Texas Tribune website, and so public schools in Texas would have to prominently display the Ten Commandments in every classroom starting next school year under a bill the Texas Senate approved Thursday. King said, or he was the senator that proposed the bill, said that during a committee hearing earlier this month that the Ten Commandments are part of the American heritage and it's time to bring them back into the classroom. He said this U.S. Supreme Court cleared the way for his bill after it sided with Joe Kennedy, a high school football coach in Washington State, who was fired for praying at football games. The court ruled that was praying as a private citizen, not an employee of the district. That's kind of tenuous as far as I'm concerned.
Tenuous at best.
At best. So, yeah, so it looks like Texas is trying to get the Ten Commandments displayed. And then, people are in an uproar on both sides, which is kind of hilarious. I don't agree with it. I've always said that, so the argument has always been, for those of you that might be younger, right? The argument has always been that when they took, so back in the day, way back in the day, before me and Jay were born back in the day, they used to do like recite prayer in school, right? And so, that got challenged. They took it out.
The Bible was the textbook.
The Bible was a textbook. They took it out because people said, well, if you're not a Christian, you're forcing me, blah, blah, blah. So they took it out. Now, a lot of Christians, and I know this is true for Jay as growing up in New York as it was for me growing up in the South, right? Is that, a lot of people were always like, that's when they took God out of school. That's when things started falling apart, right? And I mean, could you make that argument? You probably could.
Probably.
But I always felt, as I got older and I kind of thought about it, I always felt that no, it's because the church retreated from culture, right? The church retreated when that happened. The church kind of got angry and then became more insulated, right? And we're not talking denominations because all denominations kind of went through this, right? Here's something the Baptists and the Charismatics could agree on, right? It's terrible. So it's been, for years they've been trying to kind of bring this idea back. Then they brought back a moment of silence, right? Where it's just everybody could just kind of, and I'm okay with a moment of silence.
Meet me at the pole.
But the thing is that meet me at the pole.
Now, right?
Yeah, but the thing is that those things are extracurricular type things, right? They're not mandated.
They have all these things,
right?
So
that's what I'm saying.
So yeah. I'm going to say something that was controversial when I said it to my mom and in my church in New York, right? But
women can't be pastors.
You can't believe what?
Women can't be pastors.
You can't believe that we serve an almighty, omniscient God, omnipresent God, and then say that he was taken out of schools, right? You can't believe that God is everywhere except the schools, because a person got up and said, "Hey, God, we don't want you here anymore." And then he was like, you can't do that, right? It doesn't make sense, right? You can't say that when they stopped prayers in school, that God was taken out, because I used to pray in school, right? Growing up,
right?
My teachers never stopped me from praying in school. Right? I would sit there, I would pray in the lunchroom for the meal, because you get wet tissue pizza in school and you get bubble guts. I didn't want bubble guts, so I would pray for my meal. I would pray at my desk before school, before class started. Teacher never said anything. As a matter of fact,
before a test,
right? Mr. Eisenberg was just like Eisenberg, so he's Jewish.
Be careful what you say.
Matter of fact, Eisenberg never stopped me. He would start when I was done. Right? Like he would start when I was done. I would sit there, I would come, I sit and I pray. I was always early because mom taught in the same school. So, go to class, sit, pray, right? And then he would start. Like I don't, like you can't, it wasn't the thing is that we have to remember or recognize because maybe we don't know because the way like they don't teach the same things nowadays that they used to. But yes, so this country, religious freedom, right? Pilgrims, right? So the church house was also the schoolhouse, right?
Right.
The Bibles were textbooks because the church house was also the schoolhouse. So when you were taught how to read, you were taught how to read Genesis 1. You were taught how to read Psalm 25, right? You were taught how to read the Bible. That's how you learn how to read because like, they didn't have textbooks or school books. So the church house was the schoolhouse. Monday through Friday, you went to church, to the building to go to school. And then on Sunday, that was church, right? So we have to, we have to realize that. And then we have to realize the second thing. And this is what Joaquin always talks about, right? That in this country, we have freedom of religion, right? Not freedom of being a Christian only. Right? Obama said it. We are a post-Christian nation, right? You look around, there are more things that go against God that honor God. So if we have freedom of religion and you want one religion, then you have to be okay with all religions.
Right. You can't get mad when the Satanists want to open up a Satanist club.
No,
right?
Luciferians.
Right.
Right. Yeah. You can't get mad when after your kid's Christian club is the other kid's Luciferian club, right? Like you can't get mad. You can't get mad that there's what is it? The Spaghetti Monster Club.
Right.
Right. You can't get mad because this is America. This is the United States. We have freedom.
Right. It has to be. Right. And if you want freedom of religion, freedom of speech at all, it's for freedom for all.
Right.
Even if you don't, agree. Right.
You don't agree, like it doesn't matter. It's freedom for all. Right. Even the Bible says that the rain falls on the just and the unjust. Right?
And the unjust. Yep. So yes, Texas. Yeah, I mean, it's not surprising, right? Texas is doing this. It wouldn't be surprising if Florida did it next, but the problem, the big, the problem is that and I get it. Listen, I get it. People are like, oh, we need to bring morals back. We need to, and we 100% we don't disagree with that, right? This is a lawless generation, but this isn't a theocratic nation, and as much as we look at like the Taliban and we're like, look at the crazy stuff those guys do and how they don't let people go to school and how where girls go to school and they don't allow music and all this different stuff. That's the problem with theocracies, right? Is that eventually they become more and more legalistic, more and more, they take over, right? And so then I've always thought that, if Jesus didn't come, if God didn't send Jesus to establish a literal kingdom, right? Well, then we kind of maybe need to take a step back and go, wait a minute, what we need to establish is the kingdom of God, the one that he came and established, which is right, which is, preaching the gospel, which is loving your neighbor, which is, feeding the poor. I think if we Christians became more involved in those things, instead of being worried about, making good art or about being cool. Yeah, I take shots, Jay. You know me.
Be relevant.
Try to be relevant, or try to, appear cool to the world. I think that we would see. Was that
Accepted by the world? Like, yo, the world does not accept, right? The world would never accept you. It's in the Bible. The world would never accept you. You got to stop begging for the attention of a whore. Like, stop it.
right?
Just like that. Stop seeking out the attention of a whore.
Of Babylon.
Like,
you gotta always add that, the whore of Babylon.
Oh
Well, it's like this, right? Jesus said, right? Jesus told his disciples, what did he tell them? He goes, how much more are they gonna hate you?
For my name's sake, right?
For my name. How much are they gonna hate you? And how much are they gonna hate you? How much are they, it's like they're gonna hate you even more because you believe, but you haven't even seen.
Right.
I'm kind of butchering that up, but that idea, right?
It's wild to me. It's wild to me because, they get it in schools. They'll see the 10 Commandments and let's get real. Let's get all the way real. If you are not handling your responsibility as the parent at home and raising your child with the Bible, with prayer, with what is it that they said about Jesus, that he grew in stature and wisdom, right? That is like, God is not going to hold the school teacher accountable because your kid didn't learn, to love the Lord with all his heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love his neighbor as himself. It's going to hold you as a parent accountable. Right. So, and again, they can have the 10 Commandments plastered on the entire ceiling, right? On the entire ceiling. And your kid is still going to be disrespectful to the teacher, right? Still going to go and smack the spit out of somebody because they stepped on his new J's, right?
Yeah.
Like
things, or his new ponies.
Stop trying to bring ponies back. Like this, they're still going to do it. Like, they're still going to do it. I mean, come on. Like, let's be real. We go to church on Sunday, and by the time we're in the parking lot, we're like sinning in our mind, or we're going into the street, or we're cursing somebody else because they cut us off. And we just heard the word, probably went up for prayer and repented, snot coming out of our noses and crying like babies. And then we get the street to drive home, and somebody cuts us off and we curse them out, right? Like, let's be real about this. Plastering the 10 Commandments in a classroom is not gonna make your child a better believer in Jesus.
Right.
You home teaching them, being the example to them is what's gonna help. Right? That's what's gonna help.
If you want what they want.
Although I'll take it even a step further. You shouldn't even wait till Sundays for your kid to go to church. You should have some kind of service or Bible study in your house during the week. We ain't gonna talk about that this time. We're gonna get back.
You know what you should do? Yeah, if really what they need to do is they need to bring, if they want some of this stuff to be better in society, I think the reality is you need to bring back civics more than you need to have have an understanding of what it means to be a citizen, in your community.
Right? And ectiquette, right? Bring back civics and bring back etiquette. Give an etiquette class. Give a freaking home economics class, right? Bring back home ec, right? When we were in school, we had home ec, right? Like, bring back home ec, etiquette, right? Teach these kids manners, right? Teach them, right? But the morals, right? Morals are learned at home, right? Faith is learned at home. Right?
I mean, teachers can.
And your children learn how to be Christians more by these and you, by watching you, than any sermon or any 10 Commandments or 2 Commandments or 15 Commandments.
Right. Yeah, 15. Wait, 15? The lost 5?
The New Testaments, right? One another.
That's a movie.
Right? Let's get real, man.
Yeah.
Real.
So
but it is on brand for Texas. Like it's a total Texas thing to go and do something.
Well, it's on brand for the South, right? I mean, because I know that growing up here, listen, and you get it, you understand it, I understand it. Like my dad, right? My dad would be one that would be like 100%, right? That's right, like your mom, right? That's right. That's what needs to happen. They need to put it on there. That needs to be what it is, right? But it's like, but then okay, so but you would be ticked off if a Muslim state senator proposed a bill and it got passed that Muslim kids be allowed to have a room where they can go and pray, right? Where they can go and, let's say one of the prayers falls when they're in school. So it's like, okay, well, this school allow the Muslim kid to go pray, do his prayer 100%. In school.
Gotta let kids come to school with their prayer rugs and get up.
No, the school provides the prayer rug.
And take it to the back of the class and do their afternoon prayer towards Mecca. You have to, because there's afternoon prayer. There's 3 times a day. There's afternoon prayer, right? You're gonna have to let that as well.
Yeah, right? give them their space for that.
What? We have freedom of religion in this country. All religions.
We have freedom of religion. We have freedom from religion. That's why
the colleges can get away with anything.
That's why I'm in a relationship with Jesus. I'm not in a religion. Yeah. So after we done pop some smoke at folks, that's right, artists. You heard me.
Oh, remember, the Lord is more concerned with your faithfulness than your relevance. I think that's going to be the theme for the rest of the year.
That's going to be the theme for the rest of our lives because this idea.
We're going to have to keep mentioning that every episode. Even if it has nothing to do with what we're talking about. Even if it has nothing to do with the conversation, we're going to have to keep mentioning it.
Yeah. Well, yes, because you know what? Gen X, man. Gen X, we're the ones that kind of blew it with that because we were the ones having these conversations about, the culture, we need to be in the culture and we need to reach the culture. And then all we've done is, made ourselves chase the culture, right? And want to be accepted by the culture. And then look down on people that are like, yeah, I'm gonna do the thing for the believers, and then
this man, that's so religious,
right? So that's all I'm saying. I'm done with that. So speaking of religious, and this is what we're gonna get to the end. Speaking of religious, one of the most religious dudes in the history of religious dudes. A giant of the faith, when Hebrews talks about, was it the cloud of witnesses?
Yeah.
He's in that, he's joined that cloud of witnesses, right? An icon, I'll say it, not in a paganistic worship kind of way, but an icon.
It's like, right up there. I mean, I said that about David Wilkerson, right?
So an icon passed away last week. And he's was a pastor of the First Baptist Church of Atlanta for 100 years. I think he's but yeah, Charles Stanley. Who was known here in Georgia for being pastor of First Baptist Atlanta, but he had his his In Touch Ministries.
Yeah.
Right, where around the world, right, every day, like there were his messages, right, like these the dude that, because I remember a few years ago, like every morning when I was driving to work, I would listen on the radio, I would listen to one of his messages because it was just long enough, right, for the drive to work.
It's
Right?
In Touch, Charles Stanley.
In Touch with Stanley, and this was a guy. It's funny, right? Because some of these guys now, like some of these preachers now, like these our generational preachers that are they don't even hold a candle to the mastery of the word and of preaching the word in a way that what's funny is, and I don't know if you remember, as I'm thinking about it, and he wasn't flashy, he wasn't, but he knew how to connect, right?
Okay.
That scripture, and he was, but he didn't, he didn't, do like some of like these guys like the Furdicks or some of these other guys that are a lot of show, right? A lot of what's the like a lot of expressive stuff, oh yeah, and whatever. He just laid it out for you. He just laid it out for you.
He was everybody's pastor, right? Like, I don't care what denomination you're in, what church you go to, or whatever. Like, he was everybody's pastor. I remember, I cried. First of all, I mean, like, I sat here when I got the news. I got the alert, the news alert. I just sat there. I think I was teaching the kids, and I was like, all right, keep working. Probably has to go outside. All right. In the back, I'm getting dusty now. I stood in the backyard and I cried. Right. I cried. Thank God for this man's life, because my mom, this is why I say he's everybody's pastor. My mom, during my rebellious phase, my mom would always put Charles Stanley on TV, right? Because, yes, my rebellious phase, but I mean, I already went through Bible college. I knew the Bible. I knew whatever. So even if I was walking around the house or whatever, like it would be in the background.
Right.
Night, she would play that night before going to bed, right? And I would come in the morning, right? Coming home from whatever I was doing the night before, come home in the morning. It's funny. She's so funny. We talked about this. We were talking about his death. She would put on Joel Osteen, right? Because she thought that where I was in my rebellion, Joel Osteen would be a little more palatable for me, right? And I was like, I said, and you take this guy off the TV, right? You take this. It's like, even in my sin, I gotta tell him, even in my sin, I don't want cookies, right? Like, give me the other guy, like Grandpa. I just call him Grandpa. Give me Grandpa. And she would put on Andy Stanley, and I would sit there like Bud
Charles
or whatever.
Stanley. You said Andy. Charles Stanley.
Andy. No, not Andy. Never Andy. Charles Stanley. And I would sit there with her, and I would watch Charles Stanley. I would watch the whole thing, and then I would go to sleep, right? And it's funny, when I was forced to move to Georgia, the one thing that kept me going was, well, Charles Stanley's church is in Georgia. I'll go to his church, right? And I tried multiple times to get a job as a designer with In Touch. Right? And multiple times I was rejected. And then, funny story, I had the thought one day, you know what? I'm just going to drive up there, and with my resume and my portfolio in hand, and I'm going to try to talk to somebody in person and show them my work. And I didn't go to the offices. I didn't go to In Touch Ministries office off of 85. I went to the church. I went to the church, and I had all my stuff ready, and the guy that greeted me and whatever, right, introduced himself to me. I remember his name. I remember he was on crutches. He had his foot in the cast. This dude gave me a tour, because they were in the Avon building off of 285, the old Avon building. Okay. And he gave me a tour of the building. He took me to the sanctuary where they filmed, like the sanctuary of the church where they did all the stuff. He took me there. Then he took me to where they were building the new youth area, right? I was like, oh, I should just come here and be the youth pastor. I can do that too, right? And it's like, yeah, this isn't the offices. Like you want to go to the offices off of 85. You can see it from the highway. But I was new. I was new in
Right.
Georgia. I had no idea. I just went. I looked up. I searched for First Baptist Atlanta. I just went there, and I actually got to briefly meet Charles Stanley, and dude, and I had his right. Like all of a sudden, I didn't care about the job anymore. Right? I was just like thanking him for being my TV pastor, even in my dark times, right? Telling him everything that I just said about mom, right? And I told him, it's like, I grew up and you were my grandpa pastor, right? It's like I didn't go to church, I didn't go anything, I would do whatever, and I would come home and my mom would have your service open. I would sit there with my mom after being out there and being rebellious. My mom knew that I was sick, and I would listen to you. So thank you. You're a big part of my story, right? And laughed with me, talked to me for a bit, gave me a hug. And I was like, oh, now I'm going to go to the office because now I met the boss.
Yeah, I met the... No, he called him when you left. He called him when you left.
It's this Puerto Rican kid is going to go. He keeps calling me his grandpa pastor. Do not let him in.
Do not, yeah.
Right, but and his death, the news of his death impacted me, just like again with David Wilkerson. When I heard that he died too, right? Personal story with David Wilkerson too. I used to go to Times Square Church for a little bit in my life, only because I remember him from the Cross and the Switchblade movie. Right. It's like these giants, these fathers, that they make an impact on the lives and on the walk of so many of us, right? Like whether we know each other or not, like we are all connected because of Charles Stanley, right? Like I said, like he's everybody's pastor. Like he's everybody's pastor. So I know it hit you. Real Baptist.
Yeah, nah. It just hit me because I you know me, I'm kind of, I'll cry to commercial, but that's about it. But it hit me because it's like, wow, like, somebody that was always there growing up, right? You always kind of ran across this stuff. But, here's a guy, right, that he started his In Touch Ministries. He started this, his messages being preached around the world. He built this platform to, ready for this, but he did it to preach the gospel of Jesus. He didn't do it to make Jesus famous. Well, I'm hitting them all today. You know what I'm saying? But, he wasn't you never listened to anything he did that was about trying to connect to culture or trying to do this with culture or try whatever or seem whatever or have conversations. And I'm not saying that those things are wrong. There's some guys that do those things and they do those things well, Yeah.
Some guys that miss.
Was that?
And some guys that miss big time.
And there's a lot of guys that miss. And I think that, his impact is not going to be felt for another 50, 100 years. Because you're talking about seeds, right, that have planted, that have sprouted
all over the world,
and more seeds. And so it's one of those things that, it's just one of those things that when you think back,
Charles Stanley.
It's just one of those things, and what's interesting is like, so these are the guys that spoke at his celebration service. David Jeremiah, pastor out of big time pastor out of California. Franklin Graham, Samaritan's Purse, right? A guy, Billy Graham's son, and a guy who through Samaritan's Purse, like Samaritan's Purse is one of the few organizations where what I think it's something like 90% of what you give goes to where it's supposed to go, right? The senior pastor of First Baptist Atlanta spoke, which I don't know who that is, but CC Winans went and sang.
Of course.
At the service. And then now these guys weren't here, but they made appearances via recorded video shown during the service. Chuck Swindoll.
Wow.
Big time. Was that?
Paul Chuck. Remember that?
Chuck Swindoll. Jim Cymbala. The Brooklyn Tabernacle. Cymbala. I don't know. Tony Evans.
Nice.
You know Tony Evans.
Yeah.
Robert Jeffers. I don't know who Robert Jeffers is, but apparently he's the senior pastor of First Baptist, Dallas, Texas. Even Trump sent the recorded video message. Donald Trump. That heathen. Even that heathens.
But like I said, just like me, back in my rebellious days, still watching him. So yeah.
And then just to kind of to put a pin on a little bit, he started pastoring First Baptist Atlanta in 1969. That's the year that the senior pastor of First Baptist Atlanta was born. Isn't that crazy?
Oh, wow.
The senior pastor at First Baptist Atlanta was born in 1969 when Stanley took over. So, yeah, man, that's just a testament, right? So that led me to, right, the Bible verse is most apropos to this, right? 2 Timothy, where is it at? There you go. 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 7. I have fought the good fight, I have finished the race, I've kept the faith. Right? That is it, right? What's that?
That I had it all ready to quote it. So yeah.
Now verse 8. Now there is in store for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day, and not only to me, but also to all who have longed for his appearance. I think as I'm looking at this, so this is Paul giving Timothy this is Paul's charge to Timothy, right? In this chapter. So I'm going to go back to where we started. Paul's telling Timothy, preach the word, be prepared in season, out of season, correct, rebuke, encourage with great patience, careful instruction. For the time will come when people will not put up with sound doctrine. Instead, to suit their own desires, they will gather around them a great number of teachers to say what their itching ears want to hear. They will turn their ears away from the truth and turn aside to myths. But you keep your head in all situations, endure hardship. Do the work of an evangelist, discharge all the duties of your ministry. For I am already being poured out like a drink offering, and the time for my departure is near. I have fought the good fight, I have finished the race, I have kept the faith. Now there is in store for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day, and not only to me, but also to all who have longed for his appearing. And that was from the NIV. And I think this is the lesson in Charles Stanley passing that we can pull from, right? Is that, Jae starting the church, legacy, right? All things legacy. And I guess the one thing we all should strive for, to be remembered as when it is our time to go, is that people can say, he preached the gospel, right? He rightly divided the word, right? He impacted even those people that he would have never have met if he lived 10,000 years, right? And I think that for us as believers, for us as God, as people that struggle with our faith, as those of us that wrestle as we look to God, as we wrestle with God, like Jacob, and we get all our hips all jacked up, as we do all this stuff, not to forget that we should be moving forward and we should be leaving something behind. And then what is it that we're leaving behind? What is it that we want to leave behind? Do we want do we want to leave behind a grove of fruit, like a grove of, like, this is silly what I'm about to say, but like, if Charles Stanley were to turn around as he was walking into the gates, if he turned around and God said, let me show you the garden that you left behind, right? Full of fruit, right? Full of harvest, right? And I think that as a picture, that's what we would want to leave behind. When we're walking through the pearly gates, if we look around, right, are we getting in and we just see shrubs and desert, right? A few things made it through, a few things survived the field that we tended, or do we want to look behind and see? I think in my brain, he looks behind and he sees just the fruit of all the labor, the fruit of all the seed that he spread through the preaching of his ministry.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. That's what comes to.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because, it is when we get up there in years, we start thinking about what legacy are we leaving behind, right? And what we do now, what we do in life now as believers, will resonate through what we leave behind, right?
Right.
Let us, like Paul, say, I fought the good fight, I ran the good race, right? I ran the race because in the end, like real talk, in the end, that is all that matters.
Yeah, and I want to add this: the power of the legacy you leave behind has nothing to do with years, right? It has the power of the legacy you leave behind has nothing to, because I think that, don't get caught up in, well, Charles Stanley was preaching since 1969, so he looks back, of course, as she said, listen, my dad went to seminary, and I think the year before he graduated, there was an 80-year-old woman who graduated with a degree from the seminary, with a degree in mission work, and she was going to go into the mission field at 80 years old.
Yeah, it's not about
so the legacy that she leaves,
impact made, right?
Right. So it's so it's not, because I know some people be like, oh yeah, but it's all those years. It's the impact you make from the moment you decide what's my legacy going to be. And from that moment on, that's the impact. That's what's been written for you, so to speak. But it's us coming into that knowledge through the help of the Holy Spirit, was saying we're moving. 80 years old. She's probably in the mission field for 5 days. And a lion took her. I think she was going to Africa too, which was even crazier. But
It's amazing.
Yeah, 80 years old. So I think it's not too late. It's not too late to answer that call. So that when your time comes, you finish the race, whether it was a sprint or whether it was a marathon, but you ran the race set before you.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. All right.
I'm done. So that's it. That's it for today's kind of somber episode of the Overflow Podcast as we
started here and
sad. That's it. Thanks for all of you that listened. Thanks for all of you that stayed with us. Thanks for all of you that fast forwarded just to this part because you were like, I don't give a crap about DC. Hey, we appreciate you listening to whatever you listen to, whatever part you listen to. So remember, this week, as you continue your thoughts, as you continue to think about God and what He has for you, let's think about what it means to run the race that God has for us. As always, thanks for joining us. Thanks for being here with us. I'm Joaquin.
I'm still Jay.
And we'll
Thanks
see y'all
for
next
listening.
week.
Remember to go to overflowpodcast.com to subscribe to the podcast on all streaming platforms and catch up on all the links of the week. And don't forget to follow our playlist on Spotify.